Hey, thank you for joining us for our Parent Q Live. The fact that you're here today speaks volumes as to who you are and how you love God and how you love your family. Proverbs 22:6 is a verse that you've heard many times. Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they get old, they will not depart from it. I like that word train, and I know that you do as well. That word train speaks to intentionality, on purpose. And so for the fact that you are being here tonight, you are saying it is on purpose in your life that you care about the eternal destiny of your children. It's been a number of years ago, but I was sitting in a class at seminary, and a visiting professor was there, and he made this comment, and I've never forgotten it. He said, the children that you have at your home are your missionaries to the world. And I had never really heard that phrase before, and I had never really been able to couch it just like that, but it changed how I parented. That the kids, the children that I have at home are our representatives to the world to represent Christ. Friends, thank you for being here. God is using you, and the tools that you take away from tonight are going to help you prepare your missionaries for the world. We love you much.
From the day your child is born to the day they graduate, you have 936 weeks. 936 weeks of soccer practice and homework, and teaching them to use deodorant. 936 weeks to instill values, to build character, and to prepare them to face the world. You want to be a great parent, and we're here to help with each moment of parenting gold. Driving your 4th grader to practice, saying goodbye to your 10th grader as he's walking out the door, eating tacos in the kitchen with your 7th grader, tucking your toddler in at night. These moments happen every week, and we want you to be aware of the time you have left, because when you are, you do more with the time you have now. We cue you with easy, just-in-time ideas of things to say, things to do, and things to think about to connect with the heart of your child. Our cues are grounded in God's big story, so your child can discover the power of faith in those everyday moments of life. Every cue fits the context of your child's developmental phase. We cue you when your high schooler won't leave their room, your middle schooler won't pick up their clothes, your 2-year-old won't stop talking. We help you understand these moments, and we help you connect. You only have 936 weeks. You can't afford to waste them. Parent Cue. It's what we do. Download it for free today.
Hi, everybody. We are on our third parent cue of this year. We started out talking about technology and how to handle those things, and then we talked about sexual integrity, which was always a fun one, on how to have those fun conversations with your students, which hopefully you're still doing. And today we're just going to be talking about healthy habits. And I don't know if any of these things are going to be groundbreaking, but hopefully they're good reminders and just things to constantly keep in front of you as you're dealing with your high school student. Because during these 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th grade years, by now, your students should know how to put on deodorant and brush their teeth. Yeah. But what are they developing healthy habits for the long haul after they graduate? Yeah. And so that is what we are going to be talking about today.
Yeah, high school is kind of where all of your hard work as a parent really starts to get put into action as they begin to grow more and more independent and are starting to kind of learn to make choices for themselves. They're still going through a lot of changes, even more than what you thought they were going through in middle school. And but during those high school years, the biggest change is really learning healthy choices for themselves, learning how to make healthy choices for themselves. And when it comes to creating healthy habits, we want to take a look at 3 of the biggest challenges that we kind of see take place and how we can handle those issues in a healthy way. And a large focus during these years is teaching and guiding our young adults to think for themselves and setting options for them to manage a healthy lifestyle physically and emotionally for themselves.
Yeah, these high school years, each year as they get older and older, is about teaching independence, which is hard as parents, but it's giving them options like what Andrew said. And so one of the things is a good focus is our physical health. How are we teaching our teenagers to be physically healthy. And so these are just a few little reminders that honestly, if we're being honest, can also be challenging for ourselves as parents on what we are doing as well. And so this might even be something for the whole family to take part in. And so one of the things we always remind our parents is that we need to watch what our kids are eating. We do still have to actively play a role in what we are giving them, what we're allowing them to have, but also giving them other options to have. And so can a teenage boy go through, or girl, by the way, because I do have girls, can they devour an entire bag of Doritos? Of course they can. Is that really going to bother them that first time? Probably not, because they can devour everything. But if that's all they're eating is junk and junk and junk at these massive amounts, it will be unhealthy. Not only unhealthy right now for their teenage years, but it's setting them up to failure later on down the road. And so we want to create healthy habits. So everything is about balance, allowing them to have this stuff, but also making sure they have healthy options around the house. And so that comes back for accountability as parents. We are the ones doing the shopping. Are we creating healthy options for them to have? Are there healthy foods for them to eat? And we are explaining why they need to eat some of those. If they have some of the junk food, well, no more junk food until you eat something healthy. Give them those options to choose from. Soda and all this stuff that sometimes we can tend to stock up on. Well, we also need to help balance that. Say, hey, you've already had a couple sodas today. It needs to be water. Go grab a Gatorade, something else. But as parents, we need to be reminded that we have to allow options, and we need to create options and make sure those options are within our household. And so balance is also in exercise and what they're doing. Some of our teenagers, they're crash dieting. They're finding they're doing all this junk, and then they're like, now I got to lose it all, because they're comparing themselves to other people, which we'll talk about here in a second. If exercise and staying healthy is something that your family does, it's good to talk to them about, hey, exercise and healthy habits are a long game. We don't eat all this junk and then all of a sudden try to lose it all or stop eating, or I'm just going to eat one salad a day. We need to teach healthy behaviors that won't lead to eating disorders or improper body imaging. These are all about creating balance, but giving them options so that they know how to make the healthy choices for themselves.
Yeah, and creating physical habits during their high school years are really important, but we also know that it's really important during these years in healthy development to pay attention to our mental health and our emotional health, and your students' mental and emotional health. Anxiety, depression, and learning how to cope just with hard circumstances is a major issue for our students during these years. And I think that it's even more of an issue than it's ever been for this age demographic. And as parents, we need to continue to check in on our kids. A lot of parents, once our students become into high school and become more independent and are driving and are working, it becomes a lot more difficult to check in on our students. So it's really kind of more work for you and us as parents, but it is valuable. It is a valuable thing that we've got to do. We've got to take time to really talk with them about the things that they're going through. Ask them about their friends, because a lot of their friends are dealing with really difficult situations that may not be your experience in your household, but your kids are living those experiences with their friends, even though that's not coming into your house. Ask them about their classes. Ask them about the expectations that you've set for them, but also that they've set for themselves, not only academically, but like in their extracurricular activities. Set realistic goals together. Not something that's unattainable for your kids, but realistic goals of where they're at, that can just create space for open conversation. During these years, although you might feel like your students are pulling away more than ever, it is so important for us to be really aware of red flags that are popping up. Anytime that you notice in your students sudden changes in weight, how they dress, their hairstyles, behavior issues that come out of nowhere that are nothing like that you've ever experienced with your students. If they just all of a sudden get a whole different friend group, maybe it's the absence of old friends that they've spent time with for a really long time. Not all of these things are necessarily something terrible is on the horizon. Maybe it doesn't mean that something bad is taking place in their life, but it's always worth discussing. It's always worth discussing with your students.
It's conversation, parents. Mm-hmm. You know, when they're elementary and even in our middle school one, if you checked out that video, we kind of had, hey, here are things to do. In high school, it kind of becomes a little bit trickier than that. It's not that easy. It is a more just relational and conversation with your teenager, because we are looking for that long haul. Through high school years, especially those junior years, when all of a sudden the reality when they start driving, and their senior year and you're thinking, where are they going to go beyond? That's why we are developing these habits now, because pretty soon they're not going to be within our walls anymore. And so some conversations and questions to start asking yourself will help guide you here. So I want you to kind of think about these things. Does your student know how to plan a few healthy meals? Now, it seems really silly, right? But think about when you left your house and for the first time in your whole world, you were like, I have to figure out what to eat now. It's no longer just given to me. And so when students go off to college, or whether they go off to the work field, or whether, when they're leaving the home, do they know how to take care of themselves? We really suggest start to plan healthy meals together. Ask them.
Hot Pockets aren't a healthy meal.
Yeah, and eating 5 packs of ramen noodles 5 days a week. All right. Now they're going to do some of that anyway, again, but it's about balance. Remember.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we like to do is sit down with them and say, hey, what are we going to have for dinner this week? And kind of talk to them about what's healthy, what's not healthy, how do we make these together. Notice what they say about themselves. Talk about how they view themselves. If you're picking up on some negative things there, ask them, hey, why do you think that? Why do you feel that about yourself? Now, there's going to be a certain part where they're like, you have to say that. You're my mom or your dad. So you don't have to be silly about you're perfect, because your kid's not perfect. Sorry, I don't mean to tell you that or break it, but you don't have to tell them that anymore. So if there's some unhealthy things going on in their life, start talking about, how can we? What do you want to do about that? Hey, maybe we could do this together. Maybe we could do some family walks together. Maybe you and I can go to the gym together. But ask them, how are they feeling about themselves, about their body? It may sound really weird right now, but the more you have those conversations, it's going to be better. They need to learn how to talk about themselves in a healthy manner, and have that right image. Are they growing in a healthy manner spiritually? These high school years can be some of the amazing times of growth in a high schooler's life. And we want to have those conversations with them. And as parents, you continue to help guide them in that. If they're all of a sudden showing absence or not a care for church, that's something to talk to them about. Getting them in and asking them, hey, do you do a devotional? Do you read your Bible? I noticed your youth ministry, which we do provide devotionals and materials through our YouVersion apps or other things that we send home. Are you getting into some of that? Ask them about that. How do they handle stressful situations? Provide coping abilities for them. How do we deal with bad things when they take place? Because there will always be bad things. Parents, you cannot go fixing all of their problems. If they have a tough coach, our job is not to go replace that coach, because our job is to help them. How do you manage with that tough teacher, that tough coach, that tough boss? The answer is not fire this person or quit that. We need to talk about how do we handle those things in tough situations, and in really those realistic goals and expectations that Andrew talked about earlier. Our students sometimes can set something that's way too high for themselves because they've scrolled through hours and hours of Instagram and social media comparing themselves to somebody they're not, and something that's fake, honestly. So what are realistic expectations for ourselves? For some of you, your kid getting a B in a class, that's a realistic expectation, and that's okay. What are realistic thoughts? What are we going for? Set some goals together. And so these are just simple questions to think about that are important. to develop healthy, long-lasting habits.
Yeah. If you were just to focus on those 5 questions with your students, you're going to open up doors to conversations. They will come to you and talk to you. Those are habits that are going to guide them so far beyond their senior year in high school as they go and move into adulthood and become independent. They are healthy habits that are going to allow them to cope and deal with things that lie ahead that you yourself have experienced. And we can't necessarily shelter them from a lot of those things, but we want to help equip them and guide them to be able to handle and move forward as they experience those things beyond high school.
Yeah, and parents, we just want to remind you that we model the behavior. And I know for some of these things, this might be a touchy subject. For developing healthy habits, you might be thinking, who am I to talk about? And that's why I say, hey, it's okay to talk about it as a family. Maybe as a family we need to make some changes. Maybe as a family we don't have the best image. So it's something, hey, I need to work on this in my heart because I don't want my kid seeing this. And there is no right size for this because I've seen this in unhealthy, maybe physical unhealthy families, but I've also seen it in families that appear to be extremely healthy. But now the kid is thinking, I have to try to be perfect because mom and dad are trying to reach for something perfect. So as adults, we can be just as guilty of some of these things. And so we need to model healthy behaviors. In order to do that, we need to make sure we are living healthy behaviors, whether it's physically, emotionally, or spiritually. Are we doing these things? And how can we do these things as a family together in order for our students to see this? And so high school years can be crazy, but they really can be some of the best years. And I know some of you, you're thinking, how? But they can be. Your high schoolers are funny. They're hilarious. They're starting to develop. They're like these real personalities. They're starting to become like these real people that are fun to hang out with if our relationships are healthy. And so I want to encourage you, keep doing it.
Yeah.
You have resources. You have people that are here to help, whether it's physically, whether it's emotionally, spiritually. You have a church standing behind you, and we want to do whatever we can to help. And so please reach out if you have questions or anything on this idea of healthy habits. And so keep it up. God's got your back.
Yeah.
We are here. Your church is here. Church and family, we are so much better together. And so